Hi, I'm Tara Lynn of Geek Saga Entertainment here with my co-host Manny for our January 2026 State of the Saga discussion.
So I'm Manny, and in these monthly update shows, we'll be talking about what we've been listening to, playing, reading, and or watching, and probably also just general stuff that's going on with our lives, and maybe even recent pop culture happenings.
Before we get started, just a heads up that you can follow me and therefore all of the Geek Saga endeavors at A Geek Saga on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Benissimo Art, which, just to remind everybody, I don't think I've done any art in probably about 5 months at this point.
Oh, man. Well, just a few house cleaning items before we dig in. First, thank you to any patrons who are joining us for the patron-only live stream version of this month's State of the Saga. Second, thank you also to any patrons watching the early video release of the live stream recording. You guys are such a big part of helping us keep the lights on, so to speak, for Geek Saga Entertainment, and we truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you and the support you give. Finally, if you're watching or listening to this recording once it's gone public, keep in mind that we record these approximately 2 to 2.5 weeks prior to their public release. And also, pretty please make sure to hit those like and or subscribe buttons. And if you're catching it somewhere where you can give it a rating, it would really help us out if you could mark it 5 stars. Also, if you aren't already part of our Patreon family, please check out our sponsorship options. For just $5 a month, you can watch our State of the Saga episodes live and get access to our show notes. While for just $3 a month, you get early access to the State of the Saga episodes, the video recordings, and all podcast episodes, among some other fun content. And I also want to note that we haven't announced this publicly yet. I have a post scheduled for tomorrow. So honestly, by the time even the $3 per month patrons see this, it will have already happened. But for the duration of Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is 6 episodes beginning on January 18th, granted, we will not, maybe for the premiere next weekend, we will record night of, but generally we will record our Night of the Seven Kingdoms, aka Dunkin' Eggtails. Woo! We'll be recording them on Mondays. But what we're going to do is, while they aren't going to be live just because of like timing and making sure we can get everything done, we have a lot more preparation for these types of episodes than we do for a State of the Saga even. So we'll be recording them generally on Monday nights, except for possibly the premiere and the finale. And just for the Night of the Seven Kingdoms episodes, we will be uploading the video recordings for $3 a month and up patrons. So there will be 6 episodes that are focused on that show, for the 6 episodes of the TV show. So yeah, if you are a patron at the $3 per month and up level, you will actually have access to those video recordings. I would say, to be safe, within like 36 hours of HBO airing the episode. So sometimes it will be way earlier, but in most cases it will be like the Monday night or possibly Tuesday morning, depending on when we're able to record, that $3 a month and up patrons will have access to them. Again, by the time this airs as a podcast, it will be like halfway through the season, like 2 episodes in or so. But yeah, so if you have not joined our Patreon yet, that is possibly a perk you would be interested in if you come to us for our Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, Hot D, Night of the Seven Kingdoms in the very near future content. Check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
Well, with all of that out of the way, we're going to get into our discussion. We're going to kick this month's episode off with news and or general gossip.
My sound since I came back to South Carolina hasn't been the greatest, because even when I had a separate room to record in, we're talking 10-foot ceilings. And then now I'm currently in an open dining room. There's literally no way to shut off this room from the rest of the house. I have set up some curtains behind me. I'm trying to dampen the sound as much as I can, but it's only going to help so much. So anyway, back on subject. News and or general gossip. I have 2 things I'm going to talk about. We can bounce back and forth. I am going to talk a little bit more about the end of Stranger Things later in this episode when I talk about what I've been watching. But I did want to mention in this like newsy section, what the fuck, conformity gate? I can't even. If you haven't heard about Conformity Gate, I don't know how much you care about spoilers for Stranger Things.
I have not watched Stranger Things. I heard it's really good, but in all
You
honesty,
haven't? Okay.
I just
Well,
don't really have an interest. So,
I think you'd actually like it a lot. So I'm going to do my best to not give major spoilers. But
look, you can go ahead and give major spoilers because I promise you that I will forget about. That is the beauty about my unmedicated ADHD brain, is that people will tell me endings to thing, and then I'll watch it 3 years later, and I'm like, man, I had no idea. I didn't see that coming. And they're like, dude, I told you that ending 3 years ago. I was like, I don't remember it.
Conformity Gate, I honestly didn't even really look into why it was called this. I don't know. I can't even so much with it that I'm just going to quote a hilarious passage from an article I found in The Guardian. I read this when, not shockingly, the conspiracy theory surrounding the fact that there would be a secret new episode, like extra episode of Stranger Things, didn't come to fruition. The very basic thing was that there was going to be another episode. The finale that came out on New Year's Eve wasn't actually the finale. But the quote from The Guardian, this is a little bit long, but it's really hilarious. A fantastical hypothesis that the finale's rather soupy 40-minute epilogue was all an illusion created by the show's mind-controlling villain Vecna. A secret final episode showing what had really happened would be released on January 7th at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Explaining the labyrinthine intricacies of the evidence cited by conformiteers would take thousands of words. Essentially, it involves people sitting with their hands in their lap wearing orange graduation gowns, too many people wearing glasses, a roll of dice totaling 7, a dial changing color, a wonky milkshake timeline, strategically positioned exit signs, a woman having short hair, a door handle switching sides, a character missing some scars, and one of the characters remarking that the town of Hawkins feels different. Hardly surprising, as it's no longer full of murderous monsters, cracks in the earth, and a psychopath made out of tree roots. That is actually weirdly almost spoiler free. But that is the insanity that, I mean, I didn't do a ton of research into this conformity gate thing. I just kept seeing things about it pop up and being like, what? Stop. There's not going to be another episode. But to be fair, Netflix did not help things. They made this post. The post literally was hashtag what next January 7th, 2026. But all that post was them teasing their own tease, aka on January 7th, they were announcing a bunch of new and returning shows. So it was just like, Netflix, I get that they probably had this social media post like scheduled out in advance or whatever, but you'd think somebody would have been like, ooh, maybe we should like push that tease date ahead or back a couple days so that people, whether or not people believed in it, it was still all over the internet. Maybe it was only a small sect of fans, but even people that didn't believe in it wouldn't stop talking about it, at least on my feeds, on like the Reddit posts I was seeing, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, there was no secret extra episode of Stranger Things, and it was all nonsense, not shockingly, but my God, fans will be fans. And listen, I love people in general for their fandom lore that they, even if it's not correct, I love that about fandom sometimes, but sometimes it can be a little bit like, come on guys, Netflix didn't close out a show the way they closed out that show, and then there's going to be some additional, it was all a lie. So anyway.
They're not going to make more money from doing that. Everyone who's into the show has already watched the show at this point, you know, so there's not really like a benefit to it. You're not introducing a new series. You're not
you say that, but apparently in at least in some areas, Netflix crashed on January 7th around 8 p.m. because people were looking for this.
But I would assume that there are people who are already subscribed to it. You know? Like I wouldn't believe that they got any new subscribers by like, by doing that. Because clearly people who are into Stranger Things are into Stranger Things, and they probably have had their subscription the entire time through it because, you know, people are so gung-ho about the show itself. But
or dropped it for like the 3 years that it wasn't airing at all. But still, I mean, I understand why Netflix split up the last season the way they did. They knew that by splitting it into at least episodes coming out in November and December, that if anybody had left for lack of Stranger Things, they would come back for 2 months.
Yeah, that's true. Here I am complaining about the 2-year hiatus between House of the Dragon, and these poor guys dealing with Stranger Things, you know, like, and I'm just like, well, you know what? Maybe now I'll sit down and watch Stranger Things because now it's over. So now it's like, you know what? Okay, I can just watch it at my own own leisure and go from there.
I think it's worth watching. It's its own cultural zeitgeist. It has its flaws, which I'll get into in a bit, but it is good.
My brother and sisters watch this, and they swear by it. They tell me the same thing. They're like, dude, you would love it. It's like it's classic 80s storytelling style, like done very, very well. And I know I would like it. I'm just like, well, I don't want to wait 3 years for the next season to come out, so I'll just wait till the end.
But you don't have to, and there's no other secret episode.
Clearly, there's no secret episode now, so
oh man. Did you have any newsy stuff?
So I have newsy stuff that I stumbled upon yesterday. They finally dropped a release date for season 2 of Netflix One Piece. So it's going to be in March. I had a feeling that it wasn't going to happen just because the way Netflix is so good about dropping things that are actually good as opposed to some of the garbage that they just continue to just spew out.
I never assumed that they were going to cancel it, at least not before season 2.
I just go back to like the whole like glow. Yeah, the last season wasn't great. Thought it was a little bit much, but there's still a story arc there and like story to be told with it. And the way they just kind of dropped it made me realize that it's like, you know what, man, this is why I don't watch Netflix shows, because they're just going to drop it whenever the hell they feel like it. And I'm not going to get an ending to like my story, you know, and I'm more concerned about endings than I am anything else. I just want a finality, you know? So, but with One Piece, I can't remember if I ranted on the show before about One Piece, but this was back in the day. I don't know if you remember, like on Facebook, I used to do like just little tiny reviews of things that I would watch. Whatever movie I'd watch, I would post on Facebook my little review on it. So One Piece is one of these like animes or mangas that it was just everywhere. And this was a little bit outside of the time when any anime that I had gotten into was anime that I gotten into in the late 90s. And anything after that, I really didn't get into, aside from maybe a few things, but I really didn't get into much because they just started mass producing anime. Now, One Piece, I'm not going to take a complete crap on it, even when I was taking a crap on it, is that I appreciate that people like it and it's a thing, but I never really paid attention to it. I didn't like the art style. I just thought it was kind of like a silly premise or whatever. So I sat down to watch One Piece when they did on Netflix because my intention was to spend 10 minutes watching it and then going on Facebook and taking a complete shit all over it. That was my intention for the night. So I grabbed myself 5 or 6 beers and I was like, let's do this shit. And 4 episodes into this, I knew I was in trouble. I was like, wait a minute, this is actually good. So I finished all of it and I was like, you know what? That is one of the best anime adaptations. I didn't even watch the anime. So I had to talk to like friends of mine who have or read the books, and I asked them, I'm like, well, what do you guys think about it? You know, and they were like, no, it was perfect. It was great. And I was like, this was one of the more enjoyable experiences. The show made me feel like I was 8 years old. It was totally ridiculous. You can see the lines that are literally ripped right out of the comic. Some of the scenes looks like right out of one of the cells of like the mangas and stuff like that. I was blown away by it. I was like, this has probably been the most fun I've had watching an actual show. And I was completely on board at this point. I was like, I want more of this. So with Netflix being the way they are, I thought they weren't going to. So, but they kept saying that they were going to. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's hope that happens. So now actually getting a date dropped is fantastic. I really like that show. I love what they did with it, especially coming from the heels of like the Cowboy Bebop live adaptation they did, which was fucking garbage. And again, calling it garbage, let me just tell you this, it was just bad writing or like rewriting. The cast was perfect. A lot of the settings looked perfect. The music was great because they got Yoko Kanno, who did the soundtrack to Cowboy Bebop back in the day, the actual anime. So there was so many things. The show was wrong in the writing. If you're going to write like that, then just write new stories. Don't adapt old stories into this style of writing because it fucking ruins it. And it gutted a lot of its like depth, I guess. And then the fact that they tried to make an arc out of it, like this entire story arc. Cowboy Bebop, make no mistake, is an arc, but there's really only about 4 or 5 episodes in a 26 span thing that actually completes that arc or focuses on that arc. Everything else is completely random. Firefly is the live action version of Cowboy Bebop when the live action Cowboy Bebop didn't exist. It was like that, where every episode was just this random, not monster of the week, but like hunt of the week or stuff like that. And it was so focused on the characters, and everybody who they casted in that show was perfect. Everyone they did, absolutely perfect, on point. I loved all of it. They completely took a shit on it and they fucked it up, and I was really upset about it. And I was like, okay, this is garbage. So when One Piece came out, maybe I was just mad. And I was just like, oh, I'm just going to take a shit on this fucking anime show too, whatever.
And to be fair, not that Avatar, The Last Airbender is like strictly anime, right? But the live action of that, it's not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Maybe they're just like not good at adapting. I mean, to be fair, listen, we've gone on rants about Disney's cartoon to real life, quote unquote, real life adaptations. And I feel like nobody's like, maybe just don't, like maybe just leave cartoons as they are. But I will say I tried watching watching the One Piece anime. And again, I have a ton of friends who are super into it. You know, listen, love what you love. It was not for me. It was way too over the top anime for me. That is not the animes that I've watched and really loved were like more slice of life, or like I did like a Kuroko no Basket, which is a sports anime. But I tried to watch the actual anime of One Piece after I watched the live action, and I was like, okay, like I see it. I see how this was a good adaptation for the anime fans, which is great for them too. But I can't watch this. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah. And like, I'm not even going to go back and watch the anime. Like, honestly, I'm so on board with the live action, and I love all the actors and the way they do everything. It's just fantastic.
I think the guy that they got to play Luffy is just like, he's so perfect that
he's perfect for it. I love him.
They would have to screw up so many things for it
to do that.
You know,
And I will say this too, as somebody who's trained in the martial arts, everybody knows, right? I've ranted many of times about martial arts in movies. If I have to see Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul twirl around their lightsabers one more fucking time, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit, because none of that is practical. I fucking hate it. Okay, it's just showy, flashy bullshit. It has no emotion behind it. This show did the exact opposite, and it made me feel like, holy shit, these people are actually fighters, because there's no waste of movement. Waste of movement is like when you see someone grab the sword and they're twirling it around them, like, you can't do anything with that. That's just to be flashy. It's bullshit. No real fighter or sword fighter is going to do that. So when you see it, it takes away from it. In One Piece, though, everything they did was so good and so on point that I was like, wow, just seems like with One Piece, every person did their homework.
I mean, honestly, the fighting scenes is probably almost entirely about the fight choreographers. Like, they hired the right people. And I'm guessing the actors didn't do at least not all of their fight stuff.
Yeah,
probably not most of it. So they hired some really good stunt people. So like, holla out to our fight choreographers and stunt people who get that shit done. And when it's done wrong, you can notice if you watch a lot of that stuff too. If you're trained in it at all, which is weirdly something I've started noticing.
I don't know. It's cool that they focused on like that simplicity of motion and stuff like that, which is more practical. It's more like that's how martial artists think, you know, when it comes to fighting and all this stuff. The more twirling and the more flippy and people flipping their swords up in the air and grabbing it, it's like, bro, you're just baton twirling at this point. You ain't nothing. So it's just nice that they strayed away from it, which in One Piece, honestly, those kind of things could have lended itself very well in One Piece, because One Piece is over the top. It is ridiculous. But the fact that they didn't do that for it, I mean, really good, really good.
So my second piece of newsy stuff, have you heard about the Mamma Mia Broadway show drama?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Can't remember. It was like a week or two ago. Maybe a week ago. It was pretty recently. And I'm saying a week or two ago as we're recording this on what is today? Saturday, January 10th. So by the time it comes out as a podcast, yes, this will be like several weeks at least old. But there was this video that was posted all over the place. Like it went super, super viral with this guy who was yelling at these women sitting behind him at a Broadway show, a Broadway showing of Mamma Mia. It made him look kind of bad. And people were going off about him and writing one-sided articles telling, well, only the side of the story, if you can call it that the video very much seemed to show, which is basically, I'm sorry, but like this white dude yelling for security and yelling at a bunch of women behind him, like, oh, you want to make a scene? I'll make a scene. Towering over these women who are still sitting, yelling at them. It does look bad. It looks bad. But then a whole ton of other people, including a stage manager for the show, at least one member of the cast of Mamma Mia, and a bunch of people who had apparently been sitting in that vicinity, including very close to him, spoke up in support of him. I want to call this like the TLDR, but it's really kind of hard to summarize it without being a little bit lengthy. It turns out that at least some of the women that he was yelling about were drinking, and some of them, possibly not all of the same ones, by the way. So some were drinking and some were singing along very loudly during the first act of Mamma Mia, which like big no on its own at a fucking Broadway show, like theater etiquette, my people. So anyway, apparently this man originally spoke more directly to these women who were sitting behind him, asking them to stop. And they started cursing at him, like throwing F-bombs. And he had children, like his nieces were with him. At some point, one of the women did some like weird gesture where she put her hands/arms in like a circle in the air above one of the kids' heads after he was like, please stop. So she didn't touch the kid, but still, like,
it doesn't matter.
Don't put your hands in the vicinity of my child's or my niece's, head, whatever. At first, my thought was, I don't know what I would have done in this situation, because my first thought was that I probably would have said something rude as fuck to them that only they and maybe a few people in the immediate vicinity could hear, but that I probably wouldn't have like yelled at them or yelled about them the way he did. I would have just rushed out for security myself rather than shouting for security, or maybe sent another adult from my party to find security if there was another adult there.
Yeah.
But again, like if the accounts I've seen are completely accurate, it sounds like when that video was taken, he had stood up to go find security. That's when one of the women put her hands kind of in that weird, like over the child's head, like in the vicinity of the child's head, like over it, not touching the child, but still like in the vicinity of the child's head. And that's when he was just like, security, get over here. You want to start a scene? I'll start a scene. And he wasn't swearing. I will give him that. They apparently were dropping F-bombs according to the people that found the post and like spoke up in support of him. I don't know. Honestly, like at that point, if I was that person in that situation, I want to believe I would have just yelled for security, but I don't think I would have. This is a dude. And so my first thought when I saw the video was like, oh, Jesus Christ, a white man doing like what he gonna do. But then you hear the rest of the story and it's like, holy shit, he's actually not a bad guy, especially knowing the stuff about them, you know, not just the F-bombs, whatever about swearing, like that's going to happen in public. It's just going to happen. But like the hand thing is weird to me. I don't know if I just would have yelled for security. Got to say, I would have forgotten about my, you know, nieces who were with me that I didn't want to hear F-bombs. Our show notes that are going to be posted for our patrons in a couple weeks, I don't know, whenever I get around to it. I am including a link to a Reddit post that includes a whole bunch of context for that. So enjoy, patrons. Did you have any other newsy stuff?
Yeah, I did. So I saw that they are starting to drop trailers for the Avengers Doomsday movie. And I have to admit, I still don't care. Bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Doom, okay, I get that. I see how it can work. But in all honesty, it's like, bro, the story's been told. Just let it die. It's that simple. See, like, let me tell you this. Doomsday would have worked for me if they didn't just finish making all that garbage for the past 5 years. If they just didn't make any movies, and then they're like, oh, here we go. We're going to do this movie. What's it going to be about? How is he Doom? I mean, how is this like? You see what I'm saying? There's more of like a buildup there. That would intrigue me. I'd be like, oh shit, I got to see this. How the fuck? No, they just released fucking garbage for the past fucking 5 or 6 years now that it's just like, okay, well, here's another cash grab. It's probably going to suck, man. Like, you know what? And maybe it won't suck in general, but maybe it's just going to suck for me because it's like, dude, you're just bringing something back from the dead at this point. Like, you did so good when Endgame came out and it ended. And then you had the first Spider-Man movie, which really was like the epilogue to that. That was a really good epilogue to the entire MCU. You should have just let it simmer, waited 5 years, and then released something new. And people, I mean, they would right now be at the start of where they were in the MCU when they first did this, and they would be on board to be making another $200 billion or whatever the hell. But people now are just so, I don't know, they're just so battered
exhausted. Exhausted with it. Yeah. I've been exhausted.
Fatigue. Yeah.
Yep.
And I saw a few of the clips and I was like, you know, man, I wish I can be excited about it. Oh, they're going to be bringing back the X-Men. I don't care, dude. I'm sorry. I just don't, man. I don't want to see the X-Men. I don't want to see Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier anymore. He's great. And I love him. And I loved him as the character. I loved Ian McKellen as Magneto. I don't want to see them anymore doing it. Let those people rest already, man. You know, like, for the love of God.
I did see that there was some costume stuff, like OG X-Men costume stuff that excites me. But no, actually, weirdly enough, not an hour before we started recording this, Dean and I were talking about it because he was watching a video that was like Marvel, Disney is literally like shooting their shit with this. And they are just throwing everything out there and they're spending so much money. And it is a huge gamble at this point. It's huge. It is.
It is. Think about how much money Disney has lost.
Yeah.
Right? In the past 5 years.
A Marvel movie or TV show, let's just focus on movies. When was the last time a Marvel movie actually made really good money?
It hasn't, because it's just been garbage.
Even when they're good.
Break even. Yeah. When I saw that movie, The Marvels, that movie was fucking garbage. However, Kamala Khan, who is Miss Marvel, she was fucking fantastic. And I loved her in it. And she's fucking amazing when they had the television show. I didn't finish watching the television show because I read the comic and I was disappointed with some of the creative choices they made in it. But it wasn't because of the actual writing or it wasn't because of the acting or anything like that. I thought all of that was good. Just that was more of like a me just being like a little bitch kind of thing to where I was like, well, I just don't like the way this is like unfolding. Yeah, it was more me just like, I don't like it, you know. But when I saw like the Miss Marvel's movie, I was like, dude, how are you guys not going to focus on Kamala Khan? Her character, the actress has a ton of personality. She brings all this personality to the role. Yeah, and she's fucking fantastic. And I'm like, how are you going to make her a third of this movie? And it's like, you literally made her a third of the movie. Like she was like the kid. You didn't really focus on her. And I'm like, you guys missed a golden opportunity here because you could have literally started an entire thing with her and her story arc and movies that like she's doing as opposed to trying to merge all this stuff together, man. Again, it's just bad decision making on Marvel. I don't know what they're trying to do. And even with when they did new Captain America movie, right? With the Falcon, right? Like the Falcon is a great character. He's a great actor. What's his name? Anthony Mackie, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's a great actor. He's fantastic for it. But it's like, dude, we've already gone through this. And I didn't watch the movie, but I read like the synopsis and all that kind of stuff. And it was just kind of like, okay, dumb. All right. It's kind of like the same thing kind of being retold. When they did the second Captain America, see, because a Captain America movie, as much as I'm not a Captain America fan, when they did the second movie.
How dare I love Captain
Yes,
America so
I know.
much.
Everybody does. I'm just team Tony Stark and I'm always going to be, you know. So when they did this, when they did the actual second movie, it was cool that they brought back Bucky as a Winter Soldier, but I think a lot of it got overlooked, right? Because people were looking at the Flash, but I'm like, you need to look at the political commentary going here because you have God's chosen American here, right? You got Steve Rogers, and now he's in the future world. And he sees how we do things now, which everything is about surveillance and all this stuff and espionage. And he's like, that's not right. This is wrong. That was a great dynamic. And I loved it. He was like rebelling against that, where he's like, this isn't security. It's people getting their privacy getting invaded and it's tyranny and all this stuff. I thought that was fantastic. And that movie actually would land a lot better if it came out today as opposed to when it did back then. Fantastic movie. And then when they did the third movie, which was pretty much the Avengers 2.5, right? It wasn't even like a Captain America movie. But again, fantastic because it dealt with this really good story dynamic of like, well, which side are you on? And there was a big political commentary there also. So the Captain America movies were like fantastic in their writing to where it was like, even if you're not into it, like if you're not a fan of Captain America or Bucky or anything like that, you have to appreciate the writing and the story they're trying to tell here. And again, so then they do the new one. And of course, the Falcon and this whole kind of thing, there's no way he's going to top. That's why I wish he didn't become Captain America. They should have made Bucky become Captain America and then have the Falcon be his own thing because he was so good on his own. He has a good story that can be told there. He's a great actor, you know, all this kind of stuff. All the components are correct here and you fucked it up. I don't know.
Yeah, like you said, I am exhausted with superheroes. Like, I'm not a big DC person at all, but like the most superhero-ish thing I have enjoyed in the past few years has been Peacemaker.
Did you get to watch Superman yet or no?
I did. I actually did. I don't like Superman. I think he is boring as fuck. I'm sorry, not sorry. I just, you know, my opinion, guys, I think he is a boring as fuck hero. I'm sorry, like, I'm super in every way. My only thing that hurts me is kryptonite.
Yeah, it's kind of lame. But I did like that.
And Lex Luthor is so fucking one note, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, they're all just one note. They're very, like, early superhero in like the worst ways. And that's why I love like new Captain America is that they gave him so much more nuance and everything by like making him a World War II thing instead of a Cold War thing and et cetera, et cetera. And I know a lot of people are so obsessed with Superman. I have a very close friend who is like huge into Superman. Even Dean, I think, is like a little bit more into Superman than I would have expected.
Yeah, my brother-in-law
he's mostly
is 100%
Batman.
Superman. Yeah, no, my brother-in-law is all Batman. Superman.
I get the Batman love, but Superman, boring.
I think that with that movie, like I haven't watched it, mind you, but I've watched a bunch of scenes from it, is that I love it when a movie or a show, like as in One Piece, where they make no apologies for their source material. And with Superman, you can really see that from the clips that I've seen, that it really makes no apology from its source material. It's just like, no, this is what we are. It's goofy, and that's what we're going to do.
I mean, it had serious notes to it for sure, and I'm intrigued by the new Supergirl.
I'm going to watch it because I don't have a choice. Like I'm going
And
to
also
have to
Millie,
watch them.
Millie, I got
Millie, our queen,
our young
like,
queen.
no, exactly. She's my queen, and I'm going to go watch the movie whether I want to or not. I don't have a choice.
Well, I'm going to try to keep this Reddit story. I would wait on it, but even though this is an old post, it is holiday related. I don't want to save it for next month, so we'll just try to shorten our other stuff. The Reddit story this month is my 22 female boyfriend, 29 male, fed turkey giblets to my parents' dog after they told him not to, among other rude things. Again, this is an older post. It is from 2021. Here is what the OP has to say. We've been together, again, 22 female, 29 male. 22 female is the one writing the post. We've been together about 10 months. He kind of has a pattern of being weird or childish in situations involving food. I found myself very embarrassed by how he acted at Thanksgiving with my family, and I want to know if I'm being too harsh or dramatic. The first thing was that when my mom was about to start preparing the turkey for roasting, he stuck his hand inside it and pulled out the little bag with the giblets. First of all, gross. I'm sorry, but gross.
Yeah, that's...
I hate having to do that. She asked what he was doing. He asked if he could give them to the dog. She said, no, they don't feed him anything besides dog food as they don't want him learning to beg when they're eating. He then got a knife and fork and started dissecting bits of the giblets on the counter, staring at them close up and touching them. I had to remind him to wash his hands. All the while, my mom, my brother, my brother's girlfriend, and myself are trying to actually get stuff cooked. He doesn't offer or ask if he can help at all and just hovers around picking at things and being in the way. I could tell my mom was annoyed. Yo, don't be in the way when I'm cooking, honestly. That is when I will lose my fucking temper. At the dinner itself, he commented out loud several times on food he didn't like. Not just politely turning it down, but comments like, ew, I hate gravy, and this stuffing has onions. Onions are gross. He asked what type of cranberry sauce there was and then said, oh, that's the gross kind. Okay, I'm going to just pause for a second here because I want to talk about one time when I was like 19, I think, maybe 20, where I went to dinner for the first time with this guy I was dating. And it was like him, his parents, his brother, and his aunt and uncle and cousin. And it was at the aunt and uncle's house. They lived like across the street from each other. And they made pork chops, I think. I hate pork chops. I think they're disgusting. I also don't love pork tenderloin either, honestly. Like I will eat ham. I will eat bacon. I don't like pork chops. It's something about the texture. I also don't think the taste is great. You could be an amazing chef and I'm still probably not going to like it. Whatever they made, I'm pretty sure it was pork chops. I was like, oh, no, thank you. I don't eat pork chops. I might have said I don't eat pork, but I was also like 19 or 20. I'm not stupid. I know that ham, like I wasn't stupid then. I know ham and bacon are pork, but to me, like pork chops, pork tenderloin, it's the white meat. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's a different cut of pork.
Yeah.
And I was very nice about it. I was very polite about it. Like, I'm sorry. I don't eat that. I didn't even say I don't like it. I said I don't eat it. And apparently, like over the years, it turned into this big thing because later on, I was with this guy for a long time. But later on, they saw me eating like bacon and ham. They ended up hating me because they remembered me saying I didn't eat pork or didn't eat pork chops, whatever. And I was so polite about it. I'm sorry, I'm allowed to not eat a thing.
Yeah,
right?
You are. Yep.
They pulled my significant other aside. He didn't stick up for me at all. It was like I don't know what her problem is. And it turned into this thing where apparently half his family hated me because I wouldn't eat the pork. So years after that, I'm dating a new person and their grandmother cooked, I think it was pork tenderloin or something for some holiday. And I literally forced a piece of it down, even though I hate the shit, because I was so afraid because I had previously been through this situation where a whole half of the family hated me because I was like, I don't like this. I wouldn't eat this one thing that they cooked. Anyway, when I was reading this, it was like, oh God, this is so rude. If you don't like something, that's fine. You can say, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of gravy, or, oh, this has onions in it. Onions aren't my thing. Or just don't say anything and don't take it.
Just
you know
don't
what I
take
mean?
it.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's Thanksgiving. There's a million kinds of food. Anyway, so OP says, my family definitely noticed. They looked uncomfortable. My mom even offered to make additional food if you wanted something else in particular. Yo, don't make additional food. It's Thanksgiving. There's plenty.
Yeah.
He said he was fine with what was there, but then hardly ate anything. My mom felt bad afterwards, and I had to reassure her that it wasn't her fault at all. Towards the end of the meal, he left the table. I figured he was just getting something or going to the bathroom. My dad got up shortly after. He later told me that when he went in the kitchen to bring out dessert, he found the dog eating the giblets from earlier off the floor, and my boyfriend in the act of scraping a pile of food from various dishes into the dog's bowl.
Oh, Jesus.
My dad said he, the boyfriend, was giggling to himself as he did it. He was explicitly told not to feed the dog people food and then did it in secret like a child and even got caught like a child. I have never seen another adult do something like that. Apparently, then they went and had dessert. He loaded his plate with like 2 to 3 times as many sweets as like anyone else took. 90% of what he ate was dessert. When cleanup time came, everyone, including the elderly grandparents, volunteered to help, but he didn't. OP had to ask him to help. He did a half-assed job and kept inspecting the turkey carcass and was like pulling bones apart and making a mess of it. And OP's dad, who was already irritated from earlier from the dog thing, snapped at the boyfriend to like put it in the fridge or leave it alone. So boyfriend goes back to the dining room and ate more pie while the rest of them were cleaning up the kitchen. So OP says, overall, I am majorly embarrassed at his behavior. I feel like the mom of a little kid, except a kid wouldn't know better. I shouldn't have to correct the behavior of a grown man, right? And before you ask if he was just anxious about meeting my family or something, he's met them all before several times. Even if he hadn't, that wouldn't explain this whole situation because he had done apparently similar things before in front of his own family and when it was just the two of them. So OP said, I'm tired of the weird way he acts around food, tired of worrying if he's going to get weird looks from other people. As someone in my 20s, I mean, girl, you're 22, but okay. You're like barely in your 20s. Like, love you, OP, but you're barely in your 20s. I shouldn't be getting reports from my parents that my boyfriend did something rude and immature. They questioned if I felt like he was on my same level. I feel like I generally am happy with him. And then things like this pop up. And I remember he has this other side that really turns me off. He's older than me, but I feel like I'm the older one sometimes. So I guess my questions are, how important is this? Is there any chance he'll grow out of it? And what would help that happen? And how would you recommend I bring it up to him? I don't feel comfortable bringing him around my family again unless he acts normal. I hate that word, normal. So I can't just pretend nothing happened. TLDR, how should I address my boyfriend's weird, inappropriate behavior at my family's Thanksgiving? There is an update, but before I get into the update, I'm going to just summarize some comments. There were a lot of general, why are you with this person? I have secondhand embarrassment just from reading this. A lot of people curious about what other childish things he's been doing, because she kind of like mentioned that. And someone asked how often he exhibited obstructive behavior and how often he disregarded specific instructions. Basically, everyone was like, yo, get rid of this dude. My favorite comment personally was, I would murder on the dog thing. It's not just about begging, it's about pancreatitis. Jesus fuck, that could kill your dog or at least be several $1,000s in treatments. Dogs' digestive systems are set up to basically handle one major protein at a time. When you add new proteins and fats, dogs can get very ill. I mean, yes, this whole thing was disrespectful, this commenter said, but Jesus fuck with my dog and you're out. 1000% agree. And also, like, I had a friend who knowingly fed her dog a very tiny piece of bacon a couple years ago, and he was bordering on a senior dog, and she had a $3,000 hospital bill because she fed him a teeny piece of bacon. So again, pancreatitis. They're small animals. They're not us. So if they're not used to having that sort of thing, if they only get dog food, they're not going to be able to physically handle that sort of thing. And I am very strict about not feeding my dogs. If I need to feed them their monthly heartworm and tick and flea preventative stuff, I will feed it to them wrapped in some cheese, but I do not feed my dogs people food. I have flipped out on some people about feeding them people food. Because do you want to pay the vet bill?
Yeah, when it comes to like dogs and stuff like that, man, you just can't mess with that because every dog has their own thing and some animals just have their own
and cats too.
Issues. Cats are the same thing.
Stuff like that either.
Yeah, you just can't. When it comes to someone else's animal, it's like feeding someone else's kid, you know, man. You don't know if they're allergic to something or they got something going on. Like, I would not mess with it. But the guy clearly doesn't respect animals anyway if he's just doing that. He thinks it's funny, or he just looks at animals in a very adolescent way, like, oh, they're animals and they eat stuff, so here's stuff to eat.
Yeah, the weird giggling as you're like putting stuff in the dog's bowl. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
The guy sounds like a total child.
Yeah.
Complete child. And at this point, you don't know how to...
29?
Yeah.
I think she said. Insane.
And at this point, if you don't know how to bring it up, that's irrelevant. Just bring up everything, because at this point, it doesn't matter, right? He's either going to be receptive to whatever stuff you like get him, or he's just going to fucking go. Because at this point, man, if you've only been dating for 10 months, then consider yourself lucky that you're figuring this out now, you know, and not 10 years down the fucking road or 5 years down the road where you guys are more entangled with each other. I would just be like, fuck it, man. No, dude, forget that, dude.
Well, good news. The update was that she broke up with him.
Okay, good. Thank God.
OP says, I talked about it more with my parents and realized that if I'm embarrassed to honestly answer their questions about my relationship, that's a bad sign. Honestly, that is hardcore maturity for a 22-year-old. Snaps for you, OP. Snaps for you.
For sure.
She says, I found myself trying to give a bunch of excuses to make his weird behavior seem less bad than it was. I also outright lied a couple of times about other things in our relationship. Eventually, this got exhausting, and I just confessed I'd fucked up and had no good excuse. My mom asked what I thought would be best for me. The answer at this point was obvious. I will say, she continues, I left out some details when I wrote my first post. I guess I was too embarrassed to give the full picture. I want to provide it now as a confession thing, but also because I can now more clearly see how fucking weird all of this was. And I want people to validate that it's okay that I think it's weird, essentially. The giblets he fed to the dog, he fished them out of the trash bin to do that.
Ugh.
She says, my mom had thrown them away after he cut them up and made a mess on the counter. He would have had to dig through the garbage to find them again. My parents found chocolate bars missing from the cabinet. Those were not part of the dessert that was available to everyone. We think he snuck them at some point. Like a little kid. This part is kind of, his general diet is atrocious. It's like what a 5-year-old would eat, except I know there's tons of kids who eat way better. Pizza, chicken nuggets, pasta, fries, chips, grilled cheese, mac and cheese, Lucky Charms, and other sugary cereals, ice cream, candy. Not a single thing that isn't white, beige, or some hideous artificial shade of orange/yellow. Whenever I try to share my food or get something else for him, he'd snap at me.
Yeah, he sounds like a complete child. I don't think he ever grew up. He's a child.
I mean, and listen, I get picky people. I have some picky people in my immediate household. Yes. But at the same time, those picky people don't just eat those things. They are picky about a lot of things, but they also eat some actually very healthy things. Oh, by the way, the guy didn't have a job. He was thinking about going back to school, but it never took any form or action. He lived with his parents. That's whatever. Honestly, this was 2021, but even back then, like, okay, whatever, live with your parents is fine. She thought she could help motivate him. She thought that that's what you do as partners, like support each other as a team. But
you do after 10 years.
He was broke, so she ended up paying for most of the stuff that they did together. This is OP saying, some people asked about the part where I said he did similar weird food things with his family. You guys wanted to know how his family reacted. They didn't. They'd either pretend not to notice or else thought it was normal. I'm not sure which. He did things in front of them like blowing bubbles in his drink, cutting grains of rice in half with his fork over and over, and eating ice cream directly out of the container instead of spooning it into a bowl. There was one time his parents were going to take all of us out to dinner, and when discussing which restaurant to go to, they eliminated a bunch because they didn't have anything he would eat. His mom would sometimes serve him a completely separate meal if whatever she'd made for the family was something he refused.
Wow. I mean, he's a kid. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, it gets the worst. Oh, no. Oh, no. I didn't read this last part.
Do tell.
Ooh, okay, so this is like a little possible TMI for people who don't like listening about sex. So if you don't like listening about sex, you might want to skip the next like minute or two. But sex was weird. I'd put his hand between my legs, and every time he'd be like, ew, it's slimy.
What?
He only wanted her to do things for him. He never wanted to do anything for her. He criticized her for having natural pubic hair. And then when she shaved, he would criticize her for having stubble.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No, yeah, you should have broke up like 2 months into it, not as long as you did.
Yeah.
Because obviously these are things that have been going on.
I feel so, she was 22 though, man. Like, come on, you don't know any better at that age. You really don't. Trust me. You don't.
No, I know. I've stayed in things that I should not have stayed in, but I'm just...
The conclusion is, she says, so that's pretty much that. I'm unspeakably embarrassed I ever dated this loser. Sad thing is, if not for my parents insisting on talking with me about it, I'd probably still be dating him for who knows how long, thinking that this is just what it's like. Well, it doesn't have to be, and I'm grateful that they helped me see that it wasn't normal. I mean, honestly, yeah, kudos to her parents for being like forward thinking like that. Honestly, I don't know that many, maybe parents would be like, ooh, get rid of this person. But I feel like they were a little bit even more forward thinking than that. So anyway, she was done with him. And I actually even tried to click on like the throwaway profile link, but it's been like banned or deleted or whatever Reddit does. So wow. Guys, girls, especially women, femme presenting people, have respect for yourself. If things seem weird, they're probably fucking.
Probably weird.
I also am like 29 and 22, and he's also that childish. 29 and 22 to me is a little bit like, I don't love it to begin with. It's not illegal, but what do you really have in common? Is my thought.
It's true.
Moving on from that absolute clarity, what have you been watching this month, Manny?
So this month, I finally bit the bullet and started watching Pluribus. I'm in 2 episodes into it because there's been so much time, and I was traveling out of state this month also, so I had a lot of time where I was not able to watch things because I was literally in the middle of nowhere. But I have to say, I'm 2 episodes in, but totally hooked. It is fantastic that they can make a show like this. I feel like so many shows that come out are just kind of carbon copy stuff of other things, but let me tell you about my experience with it. So I watched the first episode and of course was blown away because everybody knows that I'm a huge fan of Better Call Saul and I love Rhea Seehorn. I loved her character in Better Call Saul. I loved her as an actress. Fantastic. So to get to see her come back to one of these same guys like production is fantastic. It's great to see her again on screen, like seeing an old friend, it's fantastic. So the way the show builds up and the way they do everything is awesome. And then there's stupid little things in it that I was sitting there and I was watching it. And when the guy makes the speech and it has the phone number, I was like, well, fuck, I'm a child of the 80s. They used to do this shit all the time in the 80s. I'm going to call the number. And I called the number and it's like a recording. And I was like, it's fantastic. And then they had another one that says, oh, you should text this number. So I texted the number and it responds to you, and it's just like, oh, if you need anything, Carol, like, let us know, like all this stuff. And I don't think it's on there anymore, but if you went on Google and searched Pluribus, it was hilarious because on the top there was a banner that went across and it says, hey Carol, what are you looking for? Then I found a YouTube video of a trailer and the premise of the trailer said, miserable woman tries to save the world from happiness. So there's like these little things that they had planted in there and I was like, this is great. This is like interactive as fuck. Like I love this,
Well, I mean, we talked about, what was it last month? We talked about the woman who had the ad on her fridge and her name was Carol and it was like, we're sorry we offended you, Carol. And she was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, fantastic show, fantastic premise. I can't wait to see where it goes. I know there's like a lull in the middle of it that people were complaining about that nothing's happening, but
I agree.
I'm still looking forward to it, so I'm really excited about it. But yes, that was the only thing that I think I watched this past month because I finally was just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down and watch it. But fantastic direction, fantastic cinematography, writing, everything. It's got me hooked. I can't wait to finish watching it.
That was one of the things I finished / continued watching from last month. I obviously am not going to spoil anything for you. I will say that I think with you being able to watch it back to back, sort of like not having to wait week to week, I think that lull might sit differently with you because it's like The Walking Dead season 2. Like people always complain about season 2 of The Walking Dead, but like because I didn't watch that season live, I don't feel that way about it. And I have a feeling this is you might see some of it, like you might not love like some of it because I actually got behind on it due to personal things that were happening and I couldn't, watch it week to week. So I had like at one point 3 or 4 episodes to watch at a time. And I totally see what people would talk about if they were waiting week to week, but I didn't super feel that way. We'll have to talk about it. Hopefully you'll finish it by February State of the Saga. We'll have to talk about it then. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. As I mentioned earlier, I finished Stranger Things. Again, I don't want to spoil anything just because you haven't watched it. And I know you say you'll forget it, but what I will say is that there were a lot of people who hated the ending because they felt it wasn't sad enough. Not enough people died and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, it's a show about kids. Like, it was sad. I cried several times throughout this last season, but I mean, not like sobbed, but like, oh, a tear, a single tear running down my cheek. So I disagree with the fact that it was a bad ending to the show. I think that the ending fit the type of show it was supposed to be and the type of, like, yes, it got really fucking dark at some points. My one complaint is that there were characters who were like major players in season 3 and 4, especially, who just disappeared. and you never hear anything about them again. I don't even mean like they're dead or anything. Like they
never
were
came
major
back.
players. And then it's like one of them I read and I looked it up. Why isn't this character in season 5? And it was like a kind of half-ass explanation. I was like, all right, fine, I can accept that. But there was another one who was maybe not a major player, but like a big player in season 3 and also had a pretty big situation in season 4. And like you never hear from this character again. And it was like, oh, come on, guys. And the story was like, oh, well, we're trying to minimize the cast for the last season. Like we got to focus on the main characters. But then in the last season, they bring in a whole fucking slew of new characters, both bad guys and not.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're gonna focus on this entirely new cast now, essentially. So I feel like that was a cop out for them to say like, oh, we're focusing on the main cast because you didn't, and what the fuck happened to so and so and so and so. So, but all of that said, I was pleasantly surprised with how I felt about the Stranger Things ending. I was very worried we were going to get another Game of Thrones situation. And I didn't really feel that way. Apparently some people do, because like I said, they wanted it to be more depressing, but like, my God, it's a show about, it has its dark fucking moments and points and things about it for sure, like super fucking dark, but it is still at the very core, a show about kids, even though the people who were kids when it started are like in their mid-20s now. Like the actors might be, but the kids in the show are still kids. So just saying. I also finished watching that, whatever the new season of Witcher was. And it was a thing that I watched and I hated it. And I think the next season is the final season. And that's just get it over with.
That. Yeah.
This season was terrible. And it was another thing where they were like, forget all these old characters. Like, let's introduce a bunch of new characters. There was an entire episode that felt like, you remember in like the late 90s, early 2000s when you'd have a sitcom and every season they'd have one of those like weird, dumb recap episodes to just waste time.
God. Yeah.
There was an entire episode of The Witcher that was it season 3 of The Witcher that felt like that. So yeah, I don't suggest it to anybody. I'm going to watch the final season because this season ended in a way where I'm like, okay, well, now I need to fucking watch the final season and know what happens. But stuff I restarted or started watching. There was a new season of Emily in Paris. I can't remember what season it was. 3, 4, 5. I don't even know. Emily in Paris is a stupid show. It's pointless, but I love it. It is like, take the most delusional person you've ever met and throw them into Paris and just like watch them randomly somehow succeed at everything they do. And that's Emily in Paris. It's so bad and it's so stupid, but I love it for like its sheer stupidity. We started watching the new season of Percy Jackson on Disney Plus, but we only got like a couple episodes in and haven't continued it because we generally watch it with my stepkid. New season of Fallout is good though. Liking it so far. Good. You haven't watched season 1 at all?
I haven't watched season 1, but it's definitely on my list now of stuff to watch after I get through Pluribus and The Boys, because I want to get caught up with The Boys and like Gen V and stuff like that. So that way I can like, and then I will get started on Fallout.
Well, by that time, the second season will be over. So you'll be golden. The second season, it's good so far. There is a weird thing going on with one of the radiated animals right now that I'm like, I don't remember. I'll get into this in a minute, but I didn't really play like a lot of the games. So I'm like, what is this? This seems extra. What's happening here?
Yeah.
But overall, like the show is enjoyable. Dean and I also watched Castle Rock, which is a Stephen King show. It's not strictly based on like any of his books or stories. I think. Have you read Dark Tower?
No, I'm familiar with it, but I've never read it.
It's a 2-season limited series that if you've seen Shawshank Redemption, if you've read Dark Tower, if you've seen, there's like so many Stephen King things that it references. If you've seen or read some Stephen King stuff, it's definitely worth watching because there was like a lot of Misery. Like if you've seen Misery, for sure. It was a good show too. Like it's horror, but more like blood and gore horror than like, but there's also like weird time travel stuff. I don't know. It's worth watching, I think. Yeah. And it's from like 2018, 2019, I think is when it aired. So anyway, things I've watched because why not nothing else? I kind of started rewatching Penny Dreadful. And I think this goes here because I am only rewatching it because I was like, I have nothing else to watch. But I loved Penny Dreadful, the first couple seasons of it anyway. It wasn't like I'll rewatch this. It's more just like I'll rewatch Penny Dreadful. I loved Penny Dreadful. Have you been reading anything?
Have I been reading anything? Yeah, the news. That's it.
Oh God. I don't want to read the news.
No, don't. Let me just give you a bit of advice. Don't, because the ending sucks. So.
Yeah. We're in some sort of weird like news cycle where it's like, if you read the news, you're basically reading a book now, right? It doesn't feel like it can be real.
No, exactly. It feels like fiction is what it does. But.
Which is disgusting and sad. So for me, last month I talked about I had started Nona the Ninth, which is the third book in the Locked Tomb series. I loved this book. It did get very confusing in the end. I don't even want to say like how or why, because it could be a major spoiler for someone who hasn't read the series and wants to. And it's not like in a bad way. It's just like, what the fuck is happening? So anyway, now I'm with the rest of the Locked Tomb fans waiting in a lack of publication date purgatory for the fourth book that was announced like years ago and was supposed to be published already. And then a publication date never happened. I don't know. I read this book called The Wedding Party, which honestly is a book I would have been more likely to read like 20 years ago than now. But I asked my sister if she had any books I could borrow because I was like, I'm out of physical copies of books and I'm out of audiobook listening hours and I don't have money for new books right now because Christmas and also a $7,000 HVAC unit that I had to install in my house. So anyway, so I actually I liked it. And then I'm currently reading the next book she let me borrow, which is called The Block Party. So The Wedding Party and The Block Party, they are not related, but they're both very easy. Like I don't want to put them down reads because I'm like, oh, I actually want to know what happens next. I don't have to keep track of a billion fantasy characters or whatever. Like sometimes that stuff kind of, it's nice to like rinse your brain with stuff like that when you're reading, I think. Audiobooks. At the very end of December, I listened to and finished this book called The Dream Hotel. It had this like super abrupt ending that I absolutely hated. But other than that, it was a really good book and like kind of scary because I could actually see the type of shit it gets into happening in like a decade or maybe even less. Basically, it's like there's an implant that's invented that helps you sleep better. Like if you have insomnia or if you've been having to take sleep meds just to like get 6 hours of sleep or something, it helps you sleep better. But then the problem is you sign terms and conditions that allow them to see your dreams, essentially like record your dreams. So she literally gets put in a preventative jail because they're like, well, you've had dreams about your husband falling off a bridge into a river. So like now we feel like you might hurt your husband because you had dreams. It's really intriguing. It's also very like Orange is the New Black in the way like the facility she's being held is, it was very, very good. I hated the ending because it was very abrupt, but the book was very good. Yeah. So have you been playing anything?
I did wind up going and picking up for the Nintendo Switch that Metroid Beyond game. I've always been a huge fan of Metroid. Of course, it's a good game, but it feels very much just kind of on brand with the rest of them. Like maybe I'm just hitting that moment now to where it's like, okay, well, I'm just kind of playing the same game over and over. Like Nintendo is selling me the same game over and over again is what it's doing. And there's really nothing like new. I feel like they played it a little too safe. Nintendo's always been really good about innovating. Also, when it comes to video games, they've always been really like the cream of the crop when it comes to that. So when it comes to this game, I'm just like, honestly, if you put this one or the last game in there and like told me which one was which, I don't know if I would know exactly. Not to take, any credit away from the game itself. It seems pretty good. I'm not shitting on it. It's a good game, but I don't know. I think that with the way video games are now, I just wish there was more like innovation and more like creativity as opposed to just always playing it safe all the time. I feel like once we got out of the like PlayStation 2 era, I feel like video games started costing way too much to produce, that there was no more time to actually get creative or like take chances with stuff. Because when you make a game and you're talking several hundreds of millions of dollars, you really can't take a chance on making whatever. That's why we have 10 fucking Call of Duties, right? Because we're like, well, it's going to sell, so we're just going to do it, as opposed to doing something different, creative. I don't know. It's a good game, but I want to play something that's different. And not just a remake of something else either.
I played a little bit of Red Dead Online around Christmas because I didn't want to totally miss out on the holiday snow that they always have in the game because it's like always snowing constantly. But that's it. I have been watching Dean play Fallout 4. I think he bought it either between Christmas and New Year's or right after New Year's. But I played a little bit of Fallout 4 like way back around the time it first came out, which was like 10-ish years ago. But I don't like first person shooters at all. Yeah. So I think he's already farther in it than I ever got. Sometimes it's not interesting to watch him play it when he's having to like figure out passwords and stuff, but I do like the dog.
Games like that work really well in the same sense as like Red Dead does, right? Because there's side quests, there's a huge story arc. You can kind of shape the story to move in a way that you want it to move. So it really kind of follows that kind of model, but it's just a different set piece, I guess you can say.
Have you been listening to anything interesting, different?
Yeah, I did actually discover this band recently. They're called the Courtneys, and they sound like early 90s, kind of like teen angst rock, I guess. But they were actually from the early 2010s up until now. I think they're still doing stuff, but it's definitely very on par to the stuff I was listening to in high school and stuff. So that was kind of a nice surprise. So if you haven't checked it out, check out the Courtneys. They're actually pretty damn good.
I'll have to check them out. I kind of just audiobooks. I've been poking around on like some different podcasts that I've listened to in the past after my audiobook hours ran out, Normal Gossip and Be There in 5, but like nothing. Actually, I will say I listened to Be There in 5. Sometimes she has guests, but it's generally like a solo podcast. And she had an episode about Elf on the Shelf that was kind of funny because she crowdsourced thoughts on it and everything and got a lot of messages and emails like, don't do it. Don't buy into the bullshit. And some people were like, oh, just have fun with it. Like do your own thing, et cetera, et cetera. But I listened to it because I was like, wait, what? Elf on the an entire episode, like entire hour plus of Elf on the Shelf. I have to hear this because obviously I'm not an Elf on the Shelf person because I've never had like little kids when it has been a thing. But my sisters, I don't think my younger sister does it anymore, but my middle sister, I think still does. And Dean also has an elf that looks like Elf on the Shelf, but it's way older. And like he kept insisting that this elf was like from his mom's childhood. After I listened to this podcast episode, I reached out to my mother-in-law and I was like, hey, I sent her a picture of it and I was like, Dean insists that this was like from your childhood. But I listened to this podcast episode that did like this whole history where like the earliest rendition of any sort of like elf on a shelf. And I don't think that the elf that he had necessarily, it didn't have like the book that goes with it or the same rules, obviously, whatever. And it looks it's creepy as well. Like it's even creepier than the current elves on the shelves. Elves on the shelves, if you will. It's even creepier than those.
Oh man.
But she was like, yeah, I don't know where that came from. That is not from my childhood. I don't remember when we got it. Maybe my parents, like my mom or something, like bought it for Dean and his sister Marnie when they were kids. Like, but Dean like insists that it was like his mom's childhood thing, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna let him continue to believe that, I guess. Even though like the earliest like iteration of an elf on a shelf or like that elf at all that looks like it does, the creepy little head on the on the body. The earliest rendition of it seems to come from like the mid 60s, and Dean was born in the late 60s, and so his mom was definitely not a child in the mid 60s. That was a fun listen just because I was like, wait a minute. So the actual, like I knew that the popularized version of it now was something that came about within the past like 15, 20 years at most. Yeah. And apparently there was an earlier version of it called Christopher Poppinkins or something, but like it was sold in like card shops and like you had to like request it, and it was like a secret thing that you received it over the counter in a paper bag. Like, and this is in like the 80s. So I'm like, whatever version he has, maybe it's from earlier than that. But I just was like, okay, this is a weird thing.
That's weird, yeah.
The history of Elf on a Shelf. If anybody wants to hear it, there was a December of 2025 podcast episode from the Be There in 5 podcast that talks a lot about it. And it's actually, if you're interested in the history, it's very fun because there's also a lot of like, oh my God, did these people who made literally $100 million plus from the new Elf on the Shelf, they're psycho about owning the name and like the trademark and everything. And the reason they're probably psycho about it is because they probably stole most of what they did from a previous.
That's what happened. Yep.
All right. Well, conclusion. Any upcoming events or other things you're excited about?
Yeah, Knights of the Seven Kingdom, man.
Yep.
That's what
Same.
I'm looking forward to. You know, we're getting back to our roots here with some Game of Thrones. And tonight I'm going to try watching that Tron movie. So let's see how that goes. Yeah. So I was like, I think I have some time tonight. So by the time it's next month's State of the Saga, I'll have a lot to talk about when it comes to television shows and movies. And this movie has Jared Leto in it. So no doubt I'm going to have a lot to say. Okay. Just straight up.
I'm looking forward to Night of the Seven Kingdoms a lot. I am not looking forward to editing those episodes every single fucking week, but at least it's a 30-minute show. So I feel like our episodes will hopefully be a little bit shorter than they usually would be, like for House of the Dragon and stuff. Because oh my God, that I think by the time we get to House of the Dragon season 3, I'm gonna need to pay somebody to edit some episodes because I don't know that I'm gonna have time, but we'll see.
Yeah, man, those run a little long, but for good reason.
Yeah. I don't really have much else happening until like March, honestly. Just trying to keep my shit together here in South Carolina. As we close out the episode, we once again want to give a huge thanks to our patrons for their support. Make sure to check out our other Geek Saga show series, including Media That Made Us, a 90s and Naughties Cringe Factor, the Impulsive Hyper-Focused solo episodes, and more. And please do not forget to like, subscribe, or rate us 5 stars wherever you're watching or listening. And as always, please also consider supporting us by backing our Patreon at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.